Hey, it's Bill Gross, the LA probate expert, today with a local LA or Southern California area for sure probate expert, um, Josh. Josh Vigo-Fas and I go back pre-COVID, I guess we met, hunting the halls of Stanley Moss together for business. And we've kind of gone a little different directions within the probate space. It's a big market, but we maintained a friendship and friendly camaraderie as colleagues. So I want to get a chance to share him with you today. So Josh, thanks for being on our call today.
Thanks for having me, Bill. I appreciate it.
So give me a little background. Where'd you grow up?
Born and raised in Puerto Rico, then moved to Atlanta when I was about 8.5. Grew up there
What
for
city of Puerto
13.
Rico?
I grew up in Cabo Rojo, which is the southwest corner of the island.
Wow.
I go back almost every year except the COVID year, we kind of skipped it. And go back and visit family. And then I moved to Atlanta when I was young and grew up there for 13 years and then followed a girl out to the West Coast and been out here ever since.
Wow. I used to do business in Puerto Rico. I worked, had a small company where we import electronics, and they were manufacturing PC boards in various places in Puerto Rico. We go do to sell. So I've actually been around the entire island, different factories. I know the Southwest. I think like the north central is where the Arecibo telescope is, and
Yeah, the
I've been
observatory.
all over. So yeah, very nice. I don't know. So you're Puerto Rican, and so how'd you get into real estate?
I got into real estate. I think by accident. I saw a bandit sign, which I'm sure you're familiar with, that said like learn how to flip houses or become an investor. And at first I was going down that avenue. And so I joined up with this gentleman who ended up being my mentor for a little bit and started learning about the foreclosure world. And I didn't have my license yet. And then I signed up for this online investor program that you can buy. And then gradually I ended up kind of following his steps and getting my license. And then it was a slow process, but that's kind of how I fell into the real estate world.
Got it. And so today you're a real estate agent,
Correct.
working. And where's your office and what area do you service?
So I'm at Keller Williams Studio City, off Ventura and Laurel Canyon, and I service, in probate, there's properties in every county. So I essentially service every county, but primarily the Valley and South Bay area.
Got it. And so how'd you get into probate real estate specifically?
I got into probate initially because I went to a course for Kevin Sales,
Wow.
our dear mutual friend.
Yeah.
Yep, and he did a class at the Downey Association of Realtors years ago with his wife, and I attended that class, and I didn't really get into it after that until about 2020, where I really made a conscious decision to become an expert and really target that field.
Mhm.
So it was about November, December, where I just did a completely rebrand and changed the website, changed the name, and just really started targeting that.
Wow.
That's how I
So,
got.
and now that's about when I met you around that time, I guess, about
Yeah, I think
2020.
so. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I came across your meetup, as I'm sure a lot of other people do, and I met you at the court, and I think I was just fresh into learning about the process, and you taught me a bunch. And then the rest has been through experience and learning from attorneys, little nuggets here, and learning through the transaction and walking the property, all those things that you just pick up with time.
Anything in particular you did? You did Kevin's program. Any other things you did to help develop your expertise? Or was it just really time on task and being curious?
Yeah, so if you talk to any attorney, the main thing that they tell you, if you ask them, what do you look for in a probate realtor, which is like the main question that everybody asks, is competence, right? Like, do you know the process forwards and backwards? And so I just remember I would, go out and I would, Paul Horn used to do a class. I don't know if he does anymore, where he would go to different associations, and so I would attend that. But he also had a course,
Mhm.
so I would just put that on repeat
Right.
when I was in the car, when I would get home, and I just learned the process that way. But that's just listening, right? And then it's a different situation when you're actually going through the transaction and dealing with it and going through a court confirmation sale and the little stuff. So
Yeah.
I initially started with Kevin, and then I did Paul's class, and the rest has been just hands-on experience from doing the deals.
So it sounds similar. I was actually I'd met long before Kevin, Mike Torres, so I was kind of familiar with the concept. But in terms of actually getting involved in it with Kevin and then Paul Horn, actually all the leads.com was a big part for me.
Yeah.
Chad Corbett. So wow. So and your business has just blown up. I mean, you had a fantastic year last year. I don't know if you want to talk about the numbers or not, or if you're too shy to talk about it. But you're what every realtor wants to end up with 2 years down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. 2021 was a big year in the middle of the pandemic. I did 40 sides, and I think I calculated 27 of those ended up being probate and trust. I think I did 26, and I did one trust sale. And this year is going to be pretty big as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
In the midst of that, you get married.
In the midst of that, I got married. I
In
had
the midst of that, you had a baby. Yeah.
In the midst of that, I had a baby. In the midst of that, we bought our first investment property, a duplex. In the midst of that, we bought a principal residence in November. In the midst of that, we moved. In the midst of that, we renovated the house. All of that stuff in the middle of it.
Like all the stressors one could have, you had in that time period.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, fantastic. So no doubt along the way, you're in office with a bunch of real estate agents and every transaction or most transactions have another agent on the other side. You must get approached like I do all the time for agents saying, wow, how do you do it? How can I be successful like you? So what are some of the things you tell them to somebody who's looking to build their real estate business or practice?
Consistent self-discipline. You know Jim Rohn, right? I'm sure you've heard many of his teachings, and I love listening to him and waking up and listening to different people. But that's always stuck with me. If you want to get skinny and you want to live a healthier lifestyle, you got to go to the gym consistently, right? You're not just going to go Monday and then Saturday and think you're going to have a six pack. It's the same way with real estate. And the way that you are successful in real estate is you talk to as many people as possible that have a property to sell or are looking to sell it or buy a property. So for me, it's discipline. I know I have to be on the phone by a certain time. I know that I have to talk to X amount of people, and I know that I have to be of value regarding the probate process. There's many times where I'm sure you've seen that things get missed between an attorney and the client.
All the time.
So they don't know that, hey, probate might take you 12 to 18 months. They don't know that, the funds have to go into an estate account and they're sitting there until, you have a distribution that goes out to the beneficiary. And so people think, oh, as soon as I sell the house, I'm getting my money and I can go spend it. So that's where we as probate professionals, we try to fill in that gap. And so we just provide value. But the biggest thing is consistent self-discipline. I know when to get on the phone. I know how many people I need to talk to. I know what I need to send them to help them educate them. I know when I need to follow up. I track their case, so I know when probate notes are being released, what the court is issuing. And they probably don't know what probate notes are, so I educate them. I let them know, hey, this was just filed. You might be continued, or it looks like your RFA, you're ready to go. And then, after the hearing, another contact point, and let them know, hey, you're about 6 to 8 weeks from getting your letters, and then from us to be able to have a conversation about what putting the property on the market is like. So it's not like I'm contacting them 2 weeks after the file. I'm talking to them at the beginning, 2 weeks later, a week after that, a week after, you know what I mean? So it's multiple touch points, which you've touched on that.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception that I get is they go to a company that sells data or sells marketing. And so all I have to do is send out postcards.
Right.
Well, when are you going to send them? You going to send them when they file? There's about 30 or 40 in LA County for every probate that gets filed. You're going to send them when they get letters. You're going to send them, but maybe by then it's too late. By the time you get it out in the mail and they get it, but you haven't developed a relationship if you wait till then. You're going to send it every month for 6, 8 months. You may not have letters for a year because of a mistake. So it's one of those things where there's no automated. If there was an automated solution, Facebook or Amazon would dominate the market. They don't, because you and I have to get involved. Can you share a little bit about your phone? How much do you call a day in hours? How many people do you talk to? Do you mind sharing some of those details?
I call every day.
You say that you mean 5 days a week?
Yeah. Well, 5 days a week, starting in the morning. And I talk to, honestly, if I had a 3-line dialer, which I've done before, I would talk to 10 to 15 people an hour.
Right.
I found that the level of intent doing that is not the same.
Yep.
When I do that, it's because I'm circle prospecting, right? So I'm just reaching a geographical area. And majority of those people are like, click, or we're not interested, or talk to somebody else.
Right.
With probate, it's a very high intent, right? So I know they're either transferring the property and keeping the property into their name, they're refinancing to pay off the current mortgage and possibly cashing out to pay off the other beneficiaries, or they're liquidating the estate. One of those three is what they're. So I call with the intention of how can I help you, because you're either doing one of those three, and I'm here to facilitate, any one of those that I can. So to answer your question, every day in the morning, I talk to, I don't know, maybe 10 people, which is not a lot.
Couple hours, 2 hours?
Yeah, about 2 to 3 hours. Then I hit the gym because my health is important to me. And then I come back and I hit it again. And if I'm out, then I talk to, I don't know, fiduciaries or attorneys that are in the space that, we should know each other.
And so about how many people do you talk to on an average workday about probate? They're prospects, not talking about your customers or people calling you with leads, referrals, but how many outbound prospective contacts you talk to on a daily basis? This is the number I think that people don't understand.
About 10 to 15.
Right.
This morning, the first one that I called is a out-of-state petitioner, and he's going to be selling the property. And so, he's about 2 months away from actually putting the property on the market. And he's probably, I think he said he already got referred to a pretty big husband and wife team that does a lot of probate. But you never know, right? I mean, I provided value. I was probably the first one that called them. I'm going to put something in the mail. I'll follow up with him. And, when it comes time for him to do anything, I'll try to provide a value of sitting down with 2 or 3 agents and sharing the difference.
Right. So you might talk to 10 a day. And I think this is where the breakdown is, because people feel like they send out postcards. You send out 100, you might even get 2 phone calls, but that's 2 as opposed to 10. And I know there's a lot of thinking, well, if they call you, they're more valuable than if you call them. I don't know if that's true. It sounds good. I don't know if that's necessarily true.
Right.
Have you done mailing before?
I did. It wasn't related to probate. I don't do the. Well, I do postcards for probate. I do postcards primarily around my listings. Number one, to bring the buzz around my listing, and then if there's something that comes from that, right, like a fruit that falls off the tree because of the listing that I already have. But for me, it has to be multiple touch points. So you have to, number one, you list the property, then you send out a postcard that's coming soon, and then just listed, and then you send out a slide text, hey, we just listed this property across the street from you, and then you drop a voicemail, and then you follow it up with a call, hey, how you doing? My name is Josh. We just listed your neighbor's property, reaching out to the neighbors, see if you might know somebody that might be looking to move into the neighborhood. And honestly, a lot of times people are F you, don't contact me. But from those, you might get 1, 2, 3 people that are like, hey, I'm thinking about selling in 6 months, next year, or thanks for reaching out, or my sister wants to, you know what I mean? So that's how the business is. Right.
And they're all multiple touch point follow-ups, right? I mean,
exactly.
It's not so often. It happens. People call and say, hey, can you list my house? But more commonly, it's several touch points, phone calls over weeks or months, period of time, sometimes years. You stay in touch with them.
Yeah.
What do you do, if anything, to stay in touch with people long-term? Let's say you talk to somebody and they're not, they say, oh, we're going to keep the property. Do you just move on? Do you put them in your database? Do you nurture them anyway?
If they're keeping the property, I don't follow up with them. My job is to list and sell property at a high level. Mm-hmm. For one of the things that I'm sure you've heard this, but that Jim Rohn talks about is major and minor time. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of us spend minor time on silly things like looking up the property or driving to the property or figuring out the best phone number. And so as agents, as an agent, I want to spend most of my time in major time, which is being in front of the prospect, talking to the prospect on the phone.
Right.
And sometimes that's hard for me, when you have a lot of listings and you have a baby and you have life that hits you, and our day gets derailed, and so it's something you got to stop at the grocery store, you got to do, and so that's hard to always manage, which I'm focusing on this year to focus more on that. But for me, it's all about how can I talk to as many people about probate that I can in a single day, and then follow up with them until they're ready.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
they're keeping the house, if they're keeping the house, great for you. I'll talk to somebody who wants to sell the house.
Right. No, I agree 100%. I mean, that's my day. My goal is to be talking to people about probate business 9 to 5. I take a break. Actually, I start at 8. I take a break for an hour for exercise, and but I want to talk to people during the day. And the administrative work has to kind of work after that. Either my assistant has to do it, or I'll do it after 5 o'clock. But 9 to 5 is always on the phone talking to people time for me.
And to me, the postcard, like if you get a new filing and you send out a postcard and you're expecting the phone to ring, that's, to me, it's like the biggest waste of your time. You're either calling them on the phone to talk to them, or go knock on their door and talk to them face to face.
Well, I mean, I think that's true here in a competitive market that we're in, right? Where you and I are, there's 30, 40 people mailing out postcards. There's 30, 40 people making phone calls. It might be true, I've learned, in smaller counties, you might be the only guy who's doing it, or one of only two. Sure. But certainly in LA, I don't think just mailing out postcards on its own is going to work. And certainly not one. It's going to have to be 6, 8. And it probably has to be integrated with some other marketing activities besides just postcards to be successful. Right. So what was the biggest challenge you've had to overcome to build your business? It sounds like you've had a really great run, and you got a lot of momentum, which is worth a fortune in real estate. What was the biggest challenge you had to overcome to get to where you are?
The biggest challenge that I've had to overcome where I am, I think with growing my business, I would spend a lot of time driving to a property, doing my Avid, setting my lockbox, coordinating the sign, like the stuff that's administrative. That has been my biggest challenge. And so I made a decision to bring somebody, like hire someone that would help me with those things, so that I could focus more time on calling and talking to people.
Nice.
I started my business when I first started, I told you, focusing in foreclosures, because that's what I knew at the time. So I would, I would use Retran, which they're a great company, and I would call, individuals who got a notice of default, and I would come from a place of service and trying to help them. But I found that 99% of those people want to keep the house, right? Like, you're not calling and say, yeah, I want to sell my house. Can you come by and list it this afternoon?
They all want to keep the house somehow.
Exactly. So you would go, I would find that I would go through this process of, hey, here are your options. And, people would start with a low mod, they would get denied, and then they either turn to, okay, well, I'm going to borrow the money from a family member, or I'm going to do a bankruptcy. And then if my back is against the wall, then I'll sell it. So I would go through that process of, maybe 3 to 6 months of trying to help someone, and then they just file Chapter 13. So then it became, okay, what can I do to, then I'm either calling expireds. I started calling expireds, and I would get listings that way. But then there it's super saturated, right? So I would start at 7 in the morning. People get pissed at 7 in the morning that you're calling them. And then there's a whole bunch of other people calling them, right? Which is kind of the same with probate, but it's very, I feel it's a lot easier to differentiate yourself in probate than it is calling an expired, a for sale by owner, etc. And I sense that people can tell if you actually know what you're talking about in probate than anywhere else.
Yeah. There's a saying, who you are speaks so loudly I can hardly hear what you're saying. And there's a lot of truth to that. I started in expireds as well. And it's interesting, your path, because I don't know anybody, I know a lot of people who started in foreclosures. I don't know anybody who continues to make money at it. Of course, the market's changed a lot. But it's also a real grind, right? It's just draining to work with those people. By definition, they're hard to work with. They can't work with their bank 99% of the time. That's the problem. And like you, I moved to expireds, and again, that was a bit of a hamster wheel. You're just constantly, 3 hours a day calling people. You have to get really good in scripts. You got to practice. And I just found that, it just wasn't pleasant, though I was really good at it. When we role played, in fact, my partner and I would role play every day before we started. We would require each other to throw one F-bomb on each other to get ready for the customers who were pissed, because it was so normal.
Yeah.
At one point I said, well, why do I want to work like this? Why don't I work with people I'm pissing off every day? This didn't seem to be pleasant. And probate, I just find it much more, generally speaking, appreciative. If I can create service for them, if I can help create a path through their problem, then they appreciate it. So I find that that's what attracted me to it.
Exactly.
So I know how hard you worked. You and I talked when you were starting out, and I know you were, like all of us, go through moments of frustration, moments of, I don't want to say desperation, but some tough times, and you push through it. So imagine you're talking to an agent like you who has some skills, has desire, has dreams and goals, but what they're doing right now isn't working. What would you say to that person to encourage them to continue the fight?
Keep going. Yeah, you just have to keep going. Eventually, I mean, look, when I started, I struggled in foreclosures, and I would call and call and call in the morning, and in the afternoon I would hit the road and knock on people's doors. And then I got into probate, and it's a snowball that builds, right? Because you have to, number one, you have to have a plan in mind. You have to then do the action, which is make the phone call, knock on the door, and then it snowballs from there. So if you're just starting and you are not getting any traction, then try something. And if it's not working, then, turn it upside down and then try that for whatever, a month, 2 months, 3 months. If your marketing's not working, okay, what kind of feedback am I getting? If they decided to go with another agent, oh, why did you decide to go with them? If they do decide to go with you, ask them, why did they decide to go with you? What was the difference? Because the way that they think may be the reason, or the way that the next person thinks. And so you already have that in your mind. Right. So just keep going. It'll eventually snowball. And you gain that momentum as long as you keep working. Right. So you can't get like 10 listings and decide I'm going to take off for 6 months to Tahiti and expect the business to roll in, unless you've been in the business for 30 years and you already have those relationships, right? That just keep bringing you business. And then as it snowballs, you'll build relationships with attorneys and fiduciaries who have seen how you work and handle that transaction. And so they feel comfortable with you and trust you to, possibly bring more deals.
Very good. I would say the same thing. Use those disappointments to fuel you, to push you further. I'll never forget when I started, I had an attorney who referred me to his friend who did probate. She was for all I knew, she was a probate specialist, she said. So I called her up and I said, hey, our mutual friend, attorney so-and-so, I worked with him, I've worked with his clients. He suggested I give you a call on probate referrals. And I didn't really have the value to give to her. I was asking for her business. So she said to me, well, how many probate court confirmation cells have you done in LA County? And at that time I'd done none. And if when you've done a couple, call me back. Yeah. And I remember about a year later, I had done like 15 or 20 on the listing side. I had done like probably 10 or 12 on the buyer side. I had done about as many as almost anybody other than the court-appointed vendor. And I remember calling her back and emailing her, and I never got her attention again. Meanwhile, I had a great business going without her. So the moral of the story is, it's not that person that's critical. It's take that disappointment and use it to fuel yourself, to build yourself, and improve yourself. And that was really the gift. Her blowing me off was a real gift. It motivated me for months to get the business. So great.
I get blown off all the time. I get people that tell me, why are you calling me? Talk to my attorney. And I say, well, ma'am, I'm sure you can appreciate this, or sir, but you have client attorney privilege. And even if I called your attorney, they wouldn't talk to me because you're their client. But at the end of the day, who makes the decision? You do, right? So do you have the decision to hire the attorney, fire the attorney, hire the agent, fire the agent?
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think people need to be empowered. I see the biggest mistake estates make is give too much power to the attorney, too much authority. There's some great ones, but the average ones and below average, the clients give them so much power, and the results aren't commensurate with the power they've given them, and they're frustrated, but they don't know why. And the answer sometimes is they're not getting the support they really need. And here you're offering to give another set of eyes. I always tell them it's like another set of eyes for free. You're almost like, I'm not an attorney, I can't give legal advice, but I know the procedure as well as, or better than most attorneys. So,
Right.
Well, good. Well, and so what's your goal? Where is this business going to take you? You've been in the probate for 2 years, you've been in real estate for a while longer, you got a new baby, new marriage, new house, newly remodeled house. Where do you want to be 3 years, 5 years from now?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the goal for this year is to do 57 listings and 10 buyers, so a total of 67. Last year I did 40 sites, 27 of them probate and trust. I think, well, the goal for 3 to 5 years from now is to have more of a consistent referral-based business from practitioners who are either working with a dud of an agent and just provide more value in that sphere. So it's eventually, we're consistently closing 10 to 15 deals a month.
Fantastic.
Which would be like over 100 a year.
Fantastic.
Which would then require a crazy staff and a runner and a manager for myself. But that's the goal, essentially.
Well, that's exciting. We'll look forward to seeing that happen. And I'm here to support you if I can anyway, right?
I know.
So Josh, if someone were to reach you to talk about real estate in general or probate, how would they get a hold of you?
You can go to my website, www.joshvrealty, Josh V like Victor, realty.com. And all my information is on there, my email, my telephone number. And I also have a YouTube channel, Josh V TV. Oh, thanks. You got it. Josh V TV like Victor. And I put educational content. No, Josh V TV, not Josh V Realty. There you go. I put educational content on probate pretty frequently. And this helps, to differentiate myself and to help petitioners who are going through the process and don't know, may not know everything about probate, right? So they don't know the difference between full and limited, or they don't know how long it takes, or what a probate referee is, and how much they charge, and et cetera. So stuff like that, that's helpful.
Fantastic. Well, Josh V, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. I know we see each other passing in the industry from time to time. Great to spend some special time with you, and look forward to seeing you on that path to 100 deals a year. That'd be exciting, huh?
Yeah. Thanks, Bill, for having me on.
Okay, man. Thanks so much.
All right.